The morning dew still clung to the leaves when Marcus Chen unlocked the iron gates of Riverside Community Garden. His daughter Sophie skipped ahead, her backpack bouncing against her small frame, already chattering about which vegetables they should check first. At 47, Marcus had learned to find peace in these quiet morning routines. The smell of wet earth, the patient work of nurturing growing things, and Sophie's endless enthusiasm that reminded him why he kept going after losing his wife 3 years ago. "Dad, someone's sleeping on the bench," Sophie called out, concern threading through her voice. Marcus looked up from the tool shed to see what she meant. Near the rose trellis, on the weathered wooden bench donated by the neighborhood association, lay a woman. Even from a distance, Marcus could tell something was different about her. She wore what had once been expensive clothes. A silk blouse now stained and wrinkled, tailored pants with torn hems, leather shoes caked with mud. Her dark hair spread across the bench like spilled ink, and even in sleep, her posture held an unusual elegance. "Should we wake her?" Sophie whispered as they approached. The woman stirred before Marcus could answer. Her eyes opened slowly, revealing a striking amber color that seemed to catch the morning light. She sat up quickly, disoriented, her hand instinctively moving to smooth her hair before she seemed to remember where she was. When she saw Marcus and Sophie, something between shame and defiance crossed her face. "I apologize," she said, her voice carrying an accent Marcus couldn't quite place, vaguely European but with unusual vowel sounds. "I did not mean to trespass. I will leave." "Wait," Sophie said before Marcus could speak. "Are you hungry? We have sandwiches." Marcus had packed their usual breakfast, 2 egg sandwiches wrapped in paper, thermoses of tea, an apple to split. It was enough for their morning work session, carefully budgeted from his modest salary as the garden's keeper. But when he looked at Sophie's earnest face, so much like her mother's, he couldn't find it in himself to refuse. "It's all right," Marcus said gently. "You're welcome to stay. And yes, please share our breakfast." The woman's eyes widened slightly as if the offer surprised her more than it should have. "You do not know me." "That's true," Marcus replied, pulling the sandwiches from his bag. "But you look like you've had a rough night and everyone deserves breakfast." She accepted the sandwich with trembling hands. As she unwrapped it, Marcus noticed things. Her nails, though dirty, were well-shaped and had been professionally manicured recently. There was a faded tan line on her ring finger where jewelry had been removed. Her accent, her bearing, even the way she held the simple sandwich spoke of someone who had fallen from considerable height. "I am Alina," she said quietly before taking a bite. Her eyes closed briefly, and Marcus saw her throat work as if she might cry. "Marcus, this is my daughter Sophie. You take care of this garden?" Alina asked, looking around at the raised beds, the flowering trees, the carefully maintained paths. "It's my job. The city was going to let it become a parking lot 5 years ago. A group of us fought to save it. Now I live in the cottage back there and keep things growing." He paused. "What about you? Where are you from?" Something shuddered behind Alina's eyes. "Far from here. Too far to return easily." Before Marcus could probe further, heavy footsteps announced the arrival of Rodriguez, the security guard who patrolled this section of the Riverside district. He was a decent man usually, but his expression hardened when he saw Alina. "Marcus, you know the rules? No homeless sleeping in the garden. The neighborhood association has been complaining about vagrants." "She's not a vagrant," Sophie said with the absolute certainty of childhood. "She's our friend." Alina stood quickly. "I will go. Thank you for the kindness, Marcus Chin. I will not forget it." "Wait," Marcus heard himself say, his mind racing. He looked at the garden, at the work piling up, at Alina's hands that despite their current state clearly knew skill and care. What if she's not homeless? What if she works here? Rodriguez frowned. "You can't just hire people. I'm the garden keeper. The association gave me authority to bring on volunteers or temporary help when needed. We're behind on the spring planting. If Alina is willing to work, she can stay." The 3 of them turned to look at Alina. For a moment, Marcus saw something raw and desperate flash across her face, quickly masked. "I know plants," she said carefully. "I can work." "Then it's settled," Marcus said, surprising himself with his own conviction. "Rodriguez, she's with me." The guard left muttering about paperwork and Sophie cheered, already pulling Alina toward the herb garden to show her their mint plants. Marcus watched them go, wondering what he'd just done. There was a mystery in this woman, in her accent, her ruined clothes, the way she examined the garden's roses with the focused attention of an expert. As Alina knelt beside Sophie, explaining something about pruning techniques in that careful, accented English. Marcus realized two things. First, whoever she was running from, she was genuinely frightened. And second, there was something about her presence that made the morning feel less heavy, as if a door he'd kept closed might be ready to open again. 3 weeks transformed the garden in ways Marcus hadn't expected. The beds flourished under Alina's care, but more surprising was how she flourished too. Color returned to her cheeks, and though she still wore the same borrowed clothes from the donation box in his cottage, she moved through the garden with increasing confidence. Every morning she arrived before dawn, as if afraid the opportunity might vanish, and worked until sunset painted the sky in shades of amber. Marcus found himself watching her more than he should. The way her fingers moved through soil with instinctive knowledge, how she identified plants by touch alone, the soft humming that escaped her lips when she thought no one listened. She knew things, the Latin names of rare species, cultivation techniques he'd only read about in expensive horticultural journals, the precise chemistry of soil composition. This was not knowledge gained from casual gardening. "The moonflowers are budding," Alina said one evening as they locked the tool shed. Sophie had gone inside the cottage to start homework. "In 2 weeks they will bloom." "You've been tracking them," Marcus observed. "They remind me of home." She paused, her hand resting on the shed door. "My mother kept a garden. Not like this, formal, manicured with staff to maintain it. But she spent hours there herself, working with rare specimens. She taught me everything." It was the most personal thing she'd shared. Marcus waited, sensing she needed space to continue or retreat. "I studied botanical sciences at university," Alina said quietly. "Before everything became complicated." "What made it complicated?" Her jaw tightened. "My family. They have expectations, old money, old traditions. They arranged a marriage when I was 23 to a man who could benefit their business interests. Victor Ashford, a corporate executive 20 years older than me. Powerful, connected, and utterly without kindness." Marcus felt anger kindle in his chest. "You ran." "I ran," she confirmed. 3 months ago, I took nothing but my mother's ring, which I sold for travel money. I thought I could disappear into a large city, find work, start over. But my credentials meant nothing without references I dared not contact. The money ran out. And then I found myself on that bench, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. Until a nosy 10-year-old offered you a sandwich. The ghost of a smile touched her lips. Until then, yes. They stood in comfortable silence as twilight deepened. Marcus wanted to ask more, about her family, about Victor, about what she planned long-term. But something in her posture told him she'd shared all she could for now. "You're safe here," he said instead. "As long as you want to stay." Alina turned to face him fully. In the fading light, her amber eyes held depths he was only beginning to understand. "Why do you help me, Marcus? You know nothing about me, really. I could be anyone. I know you're kind to my daughter. I know you treat these plants with reverence. I know you work harder than anyone I've ever met, expecting nothing in return." He hesitated, then added, "I know what it's like to feel lost. After my wife died, I wasn't sure how to keep existing. This garden saved me. Maybe it can save you too." Something shifted in the air between them. Alina stepped closer, close enough that Marcus could smell the lavender she'd been harvesting. "You are a good man, Marcus Chin. Too good for someone with my complications. Let me worry about that." The cottage door burst open, shattering the moment. Sophie appeared, waving a paper. "Dad, I got an A on my science project. The one about plant genetics that Alina helped me with." Alina's expression transformed, genuine joy replacing the vulnerability. "Of course you did. Your hypothesis about inherited traits was excellent." As Sophie dragged Alina inside to explain every detail, Marcus followed slowly. He'd been alone for 3 years, convinced that part of his life was finished. His wife had been his everything, high school sweethearts, married at 20, Sophie born a year later. Her death from cancer had felt like losing his own heart. He'd focused on Sophie, on the garden, on simple survival. But watching Alina and Sophie laugh over the science project, their heads bent together under the kitchen light, Marcus felt something long dormant stirring. Not a replacement for what he'd lost, but something new and equally profound. Later, after Sophie was in bed, Marcus found Alina sitting on the cottage porch. She'd showered, a luxury she approached with almost religious gratitude, and wore one of his old sweaters. Her hair hung damp around her shoulders. "May I join you?" he asked. She nodded, and he settled into the chair beside her. They sat watching the garden under moonlight, the shadows of plants they'd tended together swaying in the breeze. I'm afraid, Alina said suddenly. My family will find me eventually. They have resources, investigators. When they do, they will force me back. My father believes family honor is everything. My duty to marry well, to produce heirs, to maintain our status. What do you believe? I believe I want to choose my own life. Even if it means living modestly. Even if it means working with soil under my nails and borrowed clothes. She turned to him. Even if it means falling for a widowed gardener who gave me a sandwich when I had nothing. Marcus's breath caught. Alina. You do not have to say anything. I know I come with impossible complications. But I needed you to know. You have given me more than shelter. You have given me hope that life can be simple and good and chosen. He reached for her hand, feeling the calluses forming on her palms from honest work. I spent 3 years convinced I'd never feel this way again. Then you appeared on that bench, and suddenly the world had color again. Alina leaned closer, and Marcus met her halfway. Their kiss was gentle, tentative, carrying 3 weeks of growing connection and the weight of complicated futures. When they pulled apart, her eyes glistened with tears. Whatever comes, Marcus said, we'll face it together. But neither of them could have predicted how soon whatever comes would arrive, or how the fragile peace they'd built would be tested beyond anything they'd imagined. The black cars arrived on a Tuesday morning, sleek and expensive, looking absurdly out of place on the gravel road leading to the garden. Marcus saw them first from the greenhouse where he was transplanting seedlings. His stomach dropped even before the doors opened, some instinct warning him that everything was about to change. Four people emerged. An older man in an immaculate suit, silver-haired and carrying himself with unmistakable authority. A woman wearing pearls and designer clothes, her face carefully composed. 2 younger men in dark suits who moved like security personnel. And finally, stepping from the lead car, a man in his 50s with cold blue eyes and a smile that never reached them. Sophie grabbed Marcus's arm. Dad, who are they? Before he could answer, Alina appeared from behind the rose trellis. She'd been pruning, her hands still holding garden shears, but when she saw the cars, the color drained from her face. The shears fell to the ground. Alina, the older man said, his accent matching hers but heavier, more formal. Enough of this foolishness. You will come home now. Father. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. The woman, her mother, Marcus realized, stepped forward with practiced grace. Darling, you have worried us terribly. 3 months of searching, hiring investigators, calling in every favor. And we find you here, playing in the dirt like a common laborer. I am not playing, Alina said, her voice gaining strength. I am living. The cold-eyed man approached, and Marcus instinctively moved closer to Alina. My darling, the man said, his voice smooth as oil. You have had your adventure. But reality calls. Our wedding is scheduled for next month. Your family has made commitments, signed contracts. You cannot simply run away from responsibility. Victor, Alina breathed, and Marcus heard everything he needed to know in how she said that name. Fear, revulsion, resignation. You must be the gardener, Victor said, turning his attention to Marcus with barely concealed disdain. Thank you for sheltering my fiancée during her episode. I assure you we will compensate you for any inconvenience. She's not property to be retrieved, Marcus said, anger overriding caution. And she's not having an episode. She's making her own choices. Victor's smile sharpened. And what do you offer her? This. He gestured dismissively at the garden. A cottage barely larger than my garage? A life of poverty and obscurity? I offer her freedom, Marcus said quietly. Alina's father stepped forward. You understand nothing of our world, Mr. Chin. Our family has maintained position for 6 generations through strategic alliances. Alina's marriage to Victor Ashford solidifies business relationships worth hundreds of millions. She has duties, obligations. I have a life, Alina said, her voice rising. My life, not yours to barter. Her mother's composure cracked slightly. Darling, please. Think of your future, your security. What happens when this infatuation fades? When you are 40 and have nothing but dirt under your fingernails? Then I will be 40 with dirt under my fingernails and no regrets, Alina shot back. Unlike being 40 in a mansion married to a man I despise, wondering what my life could have been. Sophie suddenly spoke up, her young voice cutting through the tension. My mom died when I was 5. Before she did, she told me that love was the only thing that mattered. Not money or big houses or what other people think. Just love. She looked at Alina with fierce loyalty. Alina loves us and we love her. That's what matters. Victor laughed, the sound cruel. How touching. The child speaks of love while adults discuss reality. Alina, you have 3 options. Return with us now and marry me as planned. Refuse and your family will be ruined. I will personally ensure your father's business partnerships dissolve. Or. He paused, his eyes glittering with malice. Continue playing house with your gardener, and I will make certain he loses everything. This garden he loves? The city council includes several of my associates. It could easily become that parking lot it almost was. Marcus felt ice in his veins. This was the reality he'd been avoiding, the vast chasm between his world and Alina's. What could he offer against such power? You would destroy a community garden out of spite? Alina asked, her voice shaking with fury. I would do whatever necessary to reclaim what is mine, Victor replied calmly. Alina looked at Marcus, her amber eyes filled with anguish. He saw her calculating, weighing her happiness against the collateral damage. He knew her well enough by now to know what she would choose. She would sacrifice herself to protect him and Sophie and the garden. No, Marcus said firmly. Alina, don't. I cannot let him destroy everything you have built. Then let me speak. Marcus turned to face Victor, Alina's parents, the security personnel. His heart hammered but his voice stayed steady. I'm not a wealthy man. I cannot offer Alina luxury or status. But I can offer her something you never will, the chance to be herself. To work with the plants she loves, to live without fear, to make her own choices. Pretty speech, Victor said. But ultimately meaningless. Alina knows her duty. My duty? Alina's voice cracked like a whip. She moved to stand beside Marcus, taking his hand. You speak of duty while threatening innocent people. You speak of honor while treating me like a business asset. I have spent my entire life performing duty, and where has it brought me? To a bench in a garden, starving and alone, until this man and his daughter showed me what real kindness looks like. Her mother stepped forward. Alina, please? No, mother. I have listened for 28 years. Now you will listen to me. Alina's hand tightened on Marcus's. I renounce the marriage contract. I renounce my inheritance. I renounce everything except the right to choose my own life. If that means poverty, then I choose poverty. If it means scandal, then I choose scandal. But I will not choose a life sentence with a man who sees me as property. Her father's face reddened. You cannot simply. I can and I am. Check your contract, father. There is no clause that allows you to force me. You can disown me, disinherit me, refuse to acknowledge me. But you cannot make me return. Victor's expression turned ugly. You will regret this. I promise you that. The only regret I have, Alina said, her voice ringing with conviction, is that I did not find the courage to leave sooner. Now please go. You are trespassing in my home. The standoff stretched for a long moment. Then Victor turned sharply and stalked back to his car. Alina's parents lingered, her mother's eyes glistening. If you ever need anything, her mother whispered. I cannot defy your father openly, but, if you need anything. I need nothing except what I have found here, Alina replied, though her voice softened slightly. But thank you, mother. That is more than I expected. They watched the cars depart, dust rising in their wake. When the sound of engines finally faded, Alina's legs gave out. Marcus caught her, holding her as she trembled with reaction. What have I done? She whispered. I have burned everything. No, Sophie said, wrapping her arms around both of them. You built something new. 6 months later, the garden bloomed with unprecedented abundance. Alina's expertise and Marcus's dedication had created something remarkable, a place featured in botanical journals, a destination for students and plant enthusiasts. The city council, impressed by the positive attention, had granted permanent protected status. Victor's threats had proven hollow. Even his influence could not overcome public support. Alina taught weekend classes on botanical science, her gentle teaching style beloved by students. She'd obtained work permits, started building a new professional identity separate from her family name. She wore simple clothes, kept dirt under her nails, and smiled more genuinely than she had in years. She'd heard from her mother twice, brief messages conveying that while her father remained rigid, her mother had quietly established a trust fund Alina could access if needed. Alina had not touched it, but she kept the letters. On an evening when the moonflowers finally bloomed, filling the air with their intoxicating scent, Marcus led Alina to the bench where they'd first met. Sophie followed, grinning with the secret knowledge of children who have been included in adult plans. Alina, Marcus said, taking her hand. 6 months ago you were a stranger on a bench. Today you are my best friend, my partner, and the person who made me believe in second chances. I cannot offer you wealth or status. I can only offer you this garden, this life, and all my heart. He pulled something from his pocket, not a traditional ring but something he'd crafted himself. A band woven from living vines of moonflower with a small diamond from his late wife's ring set in the center. His wife would have approved, he thought. She had always believed love should be shared, not hoarded. I cannot offer you riches, he continued. But I can promise you freedom, partnership, and love without conditions. Will you marry me? Alina's eyes filled with tears. She looked at the ring, at Sophie bouncing excitedly, at the garden blooming around them, at Marcus with his calloused hands and gentle heart. Yes, she said, her voice strong and certain. Yes to all of it. To the garden and the simple life and the love I choose freely. Yes, Marcus Chen, with all my heart, yes. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Sophie cheered and the moonflowers released their perfume, and somewhere in the distance, the city hummed with its endless activity. But here, in this forgotten garden that had become a sanctuary, two people who had both known loss found something rare and precious. A second beginning, chosen freely, and all the sweeter for being built on honest soil. Alina had traded a palace for a cottage, a fortune for freedom, and she had never been richer. In Marcus's embrace, with Sophie's arms around them both, she finally understood what her mother's garden had been trying to teach her all along, that the most beautiful things grow not from wealth or status, but from love, patience, and the courage to choose your own path. The moonflowers would bloom for one night only, but the choice Alina made would last a lifetime. The end.